Welcome back to Morning Joe. Joining us now from Richmond, Virginia, the new chairman of the Republican Governors Association, Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell. Governor, it's good to see you this morning.
Well, good morning, Willie, Wes, Jeff, Pat. Nice to be on. We're talking college football this morning, is that right?
Oh, we'd be happy to. Who's your squad? How's UVA looking this year?
UVA is going to be on the upswing. New coach, who's a great coach, Mike London. I'm a Notre Dame grad, so hope springs eternal in South Bend this year.
You got a lot of choices there, too. You got Virginia Tech and Blacksburg. You got all kinds of options there in Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about your state. Reporting a $545 million budget surplus for fiscal year 2011. Just announcing that. How'd you do it?
Made that presentation yesterday to our General Assembly committees. It was making the tough choices. We had a $4 million surplus last year after inheriting a $4 billion deficit. And it was just the tough choices. Being honest with people, say, look, we can't keep spending at this level. We cut back to 2006 spending levels. We invested in things short run that would help the economy, like incentives for job creation, and then long term in transportation and higher ed. And I think our business community's got confidence. We're telling the Virginia story, just ranked #1 in the country for business by Polina and CNBC. So I'm traveling the country and foreign countries to say, if you want to start a business, come to Virginia, and the jobs are coming back.
Mark Halpern.
Governor, I'd love to ask you to handicap your presidential field. Right now, who do you see as the front runner in this race? Who do you see as at least the potential to be your party's nominee?
I think it's becoming fairly obvious that you've got a cadre of top candidates: Mitt Romney, Rick Perry, Michelle Bachmann. Although I would say that looking at the debate the other day, they're getting better and better. There were any number of them on the stage I think would make a great president with more vision, more leadership, and more specific policy proposals than this administration's had in 3 years. But I think it, and I'm biased a little bit, I think it ought to be a current or former governor, because they have to balance budgets. They have to make tough decisions. They have to work on creating the climate for job creation, and can't make excuses, and have to get things done on time. You look at what's wrong with Washington, that's the kind of leadership you need.
And Governor, how would you handicap it? Some think it's going to come down to Mitt Romney versus Governor Perry in the current field. How would you handicap the two of them, their strengths and weaknesses going up against each other?
Well, I would say that's a likely scenario. Mitt Romney has obviously been a governor of a Northeast state. He's got an impeccable record in business, Bain Capital, ran the Olympics, did it all well. He wears very well on people, and he's got some very good ideas. Rick Perry's come charging into the race. Rick, of course, he was my predecessor at the RGA. He's a heck of a passionate guy and a compassionate guy. Best record in the country on job creation of any governor. The Tea Party likes him. Evangelicals like him. So, I mean, it's a different skill set they bring.
What are some of Governor Romney's
decisive, results-oriented governors?
You mentioned some of Governor Romney's new ideas that you found attractive. Which ones are you referring to?
Well, I think on job creation and economic development, he's laid out some things that I think will really help to stimulate the economy, with tax cuts and regulatory cuts and litigation reform and those kinds of things that get to the heart and soul of what you need to do to promote business. This administration is doing just the opposite. More taxes, more regulation, more unionization. It's the wrong policy. Jeff, you had it absolutely right, is there's been no concrete plans and policies and leadership. And I think Mitt Romney's a take-charge guy. Look what he did with the Olympics. I mean, I think he'd be a great president.
Governor, really happy to hear the good news on your economy. That is terrific. I wanted to ask you, though, about Texas. You know, one of the things that's stunning about Texas right now is it's the worst drought in modern history. Absolutely extreme. And yet you have Governor Perry saying that he doesn't believe in climate science and instead has a weekend for praying for rain. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm glad he's praying.
Yeah, but do you think that's adequate, Governor?
Well, no, but I mean, look, I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest the climate's changing. The only question is what do we do about it, and what can one state governor do as opposed to a broader national, international coalition? So, I think that was probably the governor's comment. I'll let him speak for himself on that. But I think we certainly need to do everything we can to reduce, emissions, because it's certainly not contributing to the health of the economy. And I think there's broad consensus on that.
Yeah, thank you for saying it, Governor. I think it's really important the American people hear that.
Yeah.
Wes?
It is. And Governor, and congratulations on the fact that Virginia kept their AAA rating. I know a lot of municipalities have not been so fortunate, particularly after the recent federal downgrade. But I wanted to ask a question about poverty. The NEAKC Foundation just released a report that children's poverty has increased 18% over the past decade. Particularly when, as you're head of a municipality, of a state, of a city, you can't extend debt ceilings. You cannot just print more money. How exactly do you help the most vulnerable of us in the situations of declining resources?
Well, government's got an obligation to keep a reasonable safety net, but government can't be all things to all people. I think we realize that there are other outstanding institutions in the society, the churches, the synagogues, the benevolent organizations that play an incredibly important and lead role in providing that safety net, particularly for women, children, men who've got problems achieving the American dream. So, I think we also realize that we've got to focus on individual responsibility and accountability. Probably the lead cause of children being in poverty is the division of the American family, the breakup of the family, 51% divorce rate, and other problems. So I think we need a kind of a rekindling in our society of a focus on integrity of the family, fathers staying with their kids. We do those things, we're going to have a lot less kids in poverty.
Pat Buchanan.
Yeah, Governor, this debt ceiling deal cut about $400 billion out of defense, and if this super committee deadlocks, another $600 billion will come out of defense by the automatic slicer. Do you think we're cutting defense too deeply, and do you think that will threaten the real prosperity of Northern Virginia and the entire state?
Well, Virginia is second in overall federal spending per capita, and a lot of its defense, its procurement, and those kind of related services really does benefit Virginia. So yes, Pat, significant cutbacks will disproportionately affect our state. I announced yesterday a long-term approach to try to reduce reliance and diversify our economy to get away from too much reliance on that federal spending. So yeah, I agree that those kind of deep cuts into the automatic triggers not only hurt Virginia, but really may imperil national security, which is why the work of the super committee is important. I hope they find some consensus to get the job done.
Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, the surplus, $545 million, unemployment in his state down around 6%. A lot of people would do some good to listen to you. Governor, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Hey, glad to be on. You all have a good day.
All right, you do the same. Coming up.